Hey there, welcome back to Code and Stuff. I'm Mike, and today we're going to dive into something that forms the foundation of all programming, data types. If you're brand new to programming, don't worry, we're starting from square one. Think of this as learning the basic building blocks that make up every program you'll ever write. In today's video, we'll explore how to set up and use GitHub Codespaces with Visual Studio Code, how to use the integrated terminal with IRB, Interactive Ruby, the four main data types in Ruby, how to store data using variables, and we'll finish off with some exercises you can try yourself. Throughout the series, we'll be using GitHub Codespaces, which gives us a consistent cloud environment accessible from anywhere, and Visual Studio Code, one of the most popular code editors out there. So let's jump right in. First things first, we need to set up our development environment using GitHub Codespaces. If you're following along, you'll need a GitHub account. If you don't have one yet, pause the video and sign up for one. It's free. We have a separate video on creating a repository and setting up GitHub Codespaces, and the link for that is in the description. If you want more detail, that's where you go. But I'm going to get us quickly started here. So, what we're going to do is that we are going to create a new repository by clicking this button here. And I'm going to select my user, and I'm going to call it Ruby-Basics. And I'm going to leave everything alone and hit Create Repository. Cool. And then I'm going to create a code space, like so, and open up my copy of Visual Studio Code in the here. I'm going to say that do not ask me again if this is an extension. Fantastic. Right. It's going to take a moment to set up our environment. We'll let that go. And what we have here is we've got Visual Studio Code. Again, the great thing about Codespaces is that it's a complete development environment in the cloud. We don't have to install anything on our computer. And what we're going to do once this finishes is that we are going to open up Terminal in Visual Studio Code. How we're going to do this is that we're going to click on Terminal here and then New Terminal. Oh, it looks like the code space has been created. I'm going to go ahead and click on this and give this a second, and we should see some text right in there. Terrific, right? It is here. It is happy to go. This works just like a regular terminal, but it's built right into Visual Studio Code. To begin exploring Ruby, we're going to use a tool called IRB, which stands for Interactive Ruby. I want you to think of IRB as a playground, a scratch pad, where we can test out Ruby code and see immediate results. To start IRB, simply type in IRB into the terminal and press enter. Let me make this a little bigger so we can see. I'm going to hit IRB and hit enter. You'll see a prompt like this, and we're good to go. This is where we're going to type our Ruby code. So we're going to talk about our first data type, strings. In programming, a string is just a sequence of characters wrapped in quotation marks. So I'm going to type in here, hello world. When I hit return, you'll see that Ruby gives us back the same string. Strings can contain letters, numbers, spaces, symbols, pretty much anything that we can type on our keyboard. Here's some more examples. Ruby is fun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm just gonna hit, oh no, I didn't want to do that. I'm gonna hit shift and get some symbols up on there, and hence here we have the symbols. I want you to think of strings like labels or messages. If programming was a post office, the strings would be the messages that we write on postcards. They're meant to be read. We're not gonna do some calculations or math of them in gem. So, with that in mind, what if we did something else? What if we try to add two strings together? I'm going to type in hello plus a string with a space in it and oops, there. And look at that, Ruby's combined those three strings. This is called string concatenation. It's like you have two sticky notes and you put them together side by side. Now it's pretty much one thing. And those, in a nutshell, are string. Next up are integers. These are whole numbers without decimal points, like 5. 42 or negative 1,000. And I want to show you. Like 5, 42 or negative 1,000. Integers are like the counters on a scoreboard. They can go up, they can go down, and they can even go below 0. Unlike strings, we can also do math with these integers, and it works just the way we think of math in our mind. 5 plus 10 is 15. 20 minus 15 should be 5. 7 times 6, I think that's 42. 42. 10 divided by 3. Ooh, 3. That's interesting. Notice that, like, when we divide 10 by 3, we get 3, not 3.333 repeating. That's because when you divide one integer by another in Ruby, the result is going to be an integer 2. It simply drops any decimal portion other than rounding. So those are integers. But I also want to show you floats. This is going to be our third data type. A float is a number with a decimal point. For example, 3.14. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Negative 2.5. 10.0. Right? Think of floats like measurements on a ruler. They can represent the points that exist between whole numbers. If integers are like stair steps, floats are like a ramp that hit every single point in between. So let's do that again, the division problem, but with floats. So instead of 10 divided by 3, we're going to do 10.0 divided by, let me put a little space here to make it a little easier to read, 3.0. And now we get 3, bunch of numbers, 5. Remember, if you need precise division results, use floats. This 5 here, a little concerning. You would expect 4, but we're not. We're going to cover that a little later on. Just know that, like, right now, we want to use floats if we want to get decimal points. The last data type we're going to talk about right now are Booleans. Booleans are the simplest data type because they can only be one of two values, true or false. We got a true, we got a false. Think of them as light switches. They're either on or off with no in between. They're incredibly useful for making decisions in your code. And believe it or not, you've been using Booleans so far in your life. Like, let's think about this. 5 greater than symbol 3. And essentially we're asking, hey, is 5 larger than 3? And the answer to this, what it's going to give us back, is true. If we do 10, is 10 less than 7? False, it is not. 5 double equals 5. We're checking for equality. Does 5 equal 5? Yes. And we can do the same thing with strings. Hello equals hello. That's true. And here's a little wrinkle. Hello double equals capitalized hello. And when I hit enter here, we see that's false, right? Hello uncapitalized is not the same thing as hello with a capital H at the start. I want you to note here that when we're checking for equality, we're using the double equal sign. We use double equals to check if two values are equal. The single equal sign does something else entirely, which we're going to cover right now. We've talked about 4 data types. So what if we want to store these data types so we can use them later? And that's where variables come in. Variables are like labeled containers that hold data. Think of them as storage boxes with names written on them. To create a variable in Ruby, we use a single equal sign, which we call the assignment operator. So let's do that. Name equals, Mike. Let's capitalize that, just for accuracy's sake. Height equals 5.11 is programmer equals true, right? And so now I've put these values inside my variables. I can use them in code. If I type in name, I get Mike. I can concatenate that like we did before. My name is plus name. We can do all kinds of things like that. So in Ruby, variable names typically use snake case, which means all lowercase with certain underscores between words, like this. First, if I want to store someone's first name, I would not call it first name. I would use snake case, and first name in snake case looks like this. First name equals Mike. Last name equals down. And we could do something like full name equals first name plus string with a space in there. And now full name has my entire name in there. One of the really powerful things that we have about variables is that we can also change what they store. Let's say I have a counter variable and I want to set it equal to 1. We're going to put 1 inside that counter. Well, I can change it. Counter equals counter plus 1, and that's 2. And now inside counter, it's 2. We took counter, we added 1 to it, and now we have 2. Variables are going to make our code more readable and reusable. All right. So now I'm going to have some practice exercises for you. Right, I am going to. I want you to pause the video and try these exercises in your own IRB session with VS Code. Let me just grab this here. I want you to create a string variable with your name, create an integer variable with your name, add 10 to your age and store it with a new variable. Create a string that says in 10 years I'll be your age plus 10 years old. Create 2 float variables and divide one by the other. Create a Boolean variable that's true if your age is over 20 and false otherwise. All right, so you should pause your video here and work on these on IRB and unpause when you're ready to move on. Okay, welcome back. Let's go through the solutions together. So I am going to create a string variable with my name. Cool. I'm going to create a variable, integer variable with my age. My age equals 29. And then what I want to do is I want to add 10 to my age and store it in a new variable. So age in 10 years equals my age plus 10, right? That is 29 plus 10 is 39 indeed. And create a string that says in 10 years I'll be, your age plus 10 years old. And that's going to look like this. Future string equals in 10 years I'll be plus age in 10 years plus years old. Oops. Now there's a mistake on my end. I needed to convert this to a string. Age in 10 years is a variable that contains an integer, and when we're concatenating, we can only concatenate strings. So I'm going to convert this to a string by typing in .toS, and there we go. In 10 years, I'll be 39 years old. And I want to create 2 float variables and divide one by the other. That's fantastic. Float 1 is going to be 10.0. Float 2 is going to be 3.0, and result is going to be float 1 divided by float 2. Oops. I made a mistake, and I forgot to put an equal sign there. And when I do it again, I get the number I wanted. And finally, I'm going to create a Boolean variable that's true if my age is over 20 and false otherwise. And that's going to look like this. Is over 20 equals my age greater than 20. So what's going to happen is it's going to evaluate right to left. My age over 20. Well, I remember that I set my age equals 29. So it is greater than 20. So it's going to be true, and that's going to be stored into is over 20. And that is true. Like, we did it. Look at that. We did it. We did it. Look at us. Look at us. So before we wrap up, let's actually create an actual Ruby file in VS Code just to save what we've learned. I am going to go to the Explorer. It'll be right here. If it's not up here, you can just click on this here, and this will come up. I'm going to just right-click here and create a new file, and we're going to call this data_types.rb. And here I'm going to add comments. I'm going to add some comments and code examples from what we've learned here today. I'm just going to copy and paste what I got from my notes. And let me make this window bigger so we can see more. Like that. We can save this file by typing Control S on a PC or Command S on a Mac. And to run this file here, I'm going to go to our terminal. Now I want to be clear here, because we haven't done anything here, we are still in IRB. We haven't left IRB. So I'm going to quit IRB by typing in exit. And now we see here that I'm back to my terminal. When you see this 33446 number, that's going to be our IRB. When we see a prompt that looks like this with your GitHub username, this is going to be, your terminal. And I'm going to run this file. It's called data types RB, so I'm going to type in Ruby data_types.rb, and it runs the file. And there we go. We've created and run our first Ruby program in Visual Studio Code using GitHub Codespaces. So great job. Let's recap everything we've learned today. We've set up a development environment using GitHub Codespaces and Visual Studio Code again. We used IRB in the integrated terminal to interactively explore Ruby. We learned about 4 fundamental data types: strings, which are text in quotation marks such as quote unquote hello; integers, whole numbers such as 42 or -7; floats, which are decimal numbers like 3.14 or -2.5; Booleans, which are true or false values. We stored and manipulated data using these variables. We've created our first Ruby file in VS Code. Understanding these basics is crucial because they form the foundation of everything else that we're going to learn in programming. One of the great benefits of using GitHub Codespaces is that your work is saved in the cloud, so you can access it from any device with a browser. No need to worry about setting up Ruby on your local machine. In our next video, we're going to explore how to make decisions in our code using conditionals, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you don't miss it. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. If you have questions, please drop them in the comments and we will be happy to answer them. Remember, everyone starts somewhere, and asking questions is how we learn. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.